But what a concerning time right now, ladies and gentlemen, for British politics, the British people. We've had a few controversial situations take place recently, and let's just be real about it all. It certainly doesn't look too good going forward. In this episode, I'll be talking about chaos in Parliament, politicians now fearing for their safety, and Lee Anderson's recent comments that have caused, well, a lot of uproar. But before I get into it, if you could, as always, make sure to leave a like rating, as it really helps out the video. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video. Comment on this video, share this video, and let's get into it. First and foremost, Parliament. Absolute chaos a few days ago, and this was all centered around a vote for a ceasefire in Gaza. Gaza's ceasefire vote descends into chaos and anger as SNP and Tories walk out. The Speaker was forced to apologise to MPs after the Commons descended into a farce over a vote on a ceasefire in Gaza. A Labour amendment calling for an all-sides halt to the fighting was passed without a vote, allowing Sir Keir Starmer to avert a major rebellion over the conflict. But the result came after only scenes of chaos and bitter political point scoring, which saw Tory MPs call for a vote of confidence in Sir Lindsay Hoyle and a mass walkout by SNP members. The Speaker, who had not been in the chair for the later stages of the SNP opposition debate on the conflict in Gaza, was forced to return to the chamber after MPs triggered a highly unusual vote demanding the Commons sit in private in protest at the procedural upheaval. Sir Lindsay had said he regretted how the parliamentary debate had turned out. More than 30 MPs have declared no confidence in him by signing an early day motion outlining their opposition to him remaining in the post. The Speaker had broken parliamentary convention to allow the Labour amendment on another opposition party's motion, sparking fury among Conservative and SNP MPs and triggering calls for a vote of no confidence in him. But Labour MPs had expressed fears that if their amendment was not tabled, they would face threats to their safety unless they backed the SNP motion. So you can see how this conflict is affecting our country right now, not only, well, in Parliament, but on the streets as well, in the mainstream media, etc, etc. It's a big thing, and I don't think I've ever really seen politicians in Parliament act this way over a situation. And as you heard at the end of the article, Labour MPs expressed their concerns that if they didn't push for this, their safety would be a concern. So it seems like people are now threatening politicians to go a certain direction with this whole situation, and the Daily Mail have actually now reported former SAS troops hired as bodyguards for 3 women MPs amid growing fears for their safety of politicians. The unnamed trio, including Tory and Labour MPs, are understood to have close protection from private companies as well as chauffeur-driven cars, usually reserved for senior cabinet members, it was reported last night. A top-level group of police, government and royal officials known as the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, responsible for keeping the royal family and the Prime Minister safe, is said to have been consulted on the move, the Sunday Times reported. At least one MP is understood to have taken on a former Special Forces expert to keep him safe. This comes as ministers consider an unprecedented ban on demonstrations outside politicians' homes and offices to stop them being targeted by pro-Palestine and climate activists. Former armed forces women are also giving advice to female MPs on how to stay safe as part of efforts by the Home Office, police and Parliament to enhance security. You know, when politicians have to go down a certain direction because of safety concerns, you know we have a big issue. 3 women now fear for their safety. I imagine there's going to be more in the future because this is the tone that has now been set. Also, male politicians are fearing for their safety. It says at least one MP is understood to have taken on a former Special Forces expert to keep him safe. And from what it seems like, a lot of this fear is stemming from how people vote and talk about the Gaza situation. Look, people can have their opinions on this whole topic. That is one thing. But to then enforce that opinion onto politicians through threats, that's a whole nother level. That should not be happening in our country. That is disgraceful. If this carries on, how can Parliament function properly? People there won't be acting on free will, they'll be acting on the will of other people. What are we doing in this country? We want to do everything apart from fixing this nation. Man, what a time. And now MP Lee Anderson has found himself in a lot of controversy because of the comments he made on GBNews. This comes after a pro-Palestine demonstration outside of Westminster. He calls Sadiq a coward and says he has handed London over to his mates. Take a watch.
People are absolutely furious in the views we're getting in today, Lee. Here's a typical comment from Audrey after the scenes on Wednesday outside Parliament and inside. Martin, I don't recognise our once great country anymore. Joanne says this. Martin, this country will never recover its identity. It's about time we sent the army in to sort this mess out on our streets.
Shocking, Martin. I mean, I was there, as you know, on Wednesday night. We could hear the commotion outside, and this is down to we've got a very cowardly Khan running London, he seems to be letting the not only the Jewish population down, but the whole population of London and Britain as a whole. And I heard the comments here. I heard the comments earlier you was making about Suella, some of the comments she made earlier this week. And I don't actually believe that these Islamists have got control of our country. But what I do believe is they've got control of Khan, and they've got control of London, and they've got control of Starmer as well. And we've seen the shocking scenes played out in Parliament just a few nights back where Starmer crumbled. He put pressure on the Speaker to alter the rules, if you like, for the nature of the debate and the ultimate voting. And this is a result of weak leadership. This is Starmer. I mean, I've got a little bit of sympathy for the Speaker. I did sign the EDM, but this stems with Starmer and it stems with Khan. God forbid us, Martin. If Labour get in control at the next election, expect more of this across our great country.
And what's the answer then, Lee? I mean, it got to the point where the aggro on the streets, and I was in the thick of it. I saw the police turning a blind eye to face coverings, to projectiles being thrown. And outside, they were haranguing people inside, and they were holding up placards saying your grandchildren will need to know how you voted. Yeah. Is there a climate of fear inside Parliament, Lee? Are people voting now, not with their hearts, but through fear?
Well, there is a climate of fear, Martin, obviously, and that's our own fault. That's all of our fault. It's all of Parliament. It's our job to actually run the country. Now, look, it's 40 years this year since it's the anniversary of the miners' strike. And I was on some of the picket lines with my dad. I can remember my dad going to Orgreave, coming back a changed man. There was a different type of policing there, Martin. I'm not saying we should go back to that brutal sort of policing that I saw on the picket lines all those years ago. But I tell you what, we could do with a little bit of that back now to control our streets, because people are just turning up in their thousands and doing anything they want, and they are laughing. They are laughing at our police, and I feel absolutely disgusted. And again, this stems with Khan. He's actually given our capital city away to his mates. We've got Starmer there, we're using Khan's pockets. He's doing nothing. He's more interested in getting into number 10 and giving our country away than actually looking after our country. And a special message here, Martin, I get quite angry about this. Anybody who's thinking about voting for reform at the election, who thinks this is going to sort out all our problems, look, beware. Because if you let Labour in through the back door, expect more of this and expect our cities to be taken over by these lunatics.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, a lot of chaos has come from these comments. You have the mainstream media, the leftists, the liberals, viciously condemning what he said, and you have people on the other side agreeing with him. He was given a chance to apologize for these statements, but he didn't apologize and now has been suspended. MP Lee Anderson still refuses to apologize for Islamophobic racist comment about London Mayor Sadiq Khan, but he says he understands why he has had Conservative whip suspended. Lee Anderson says he will continue to support efforts to call out extremism in all its forms after he was suspended by the Conservatives for refusing to apologize for Islamophobic racist comments he made about the Mayor of London. Mr. Anderson, MP for Ashfield, had the whip withdrawn after he made comments on GBNews suggesting Sadiq Khan was controlled by Islamists and had given our capital city away to his mates in an interview on GBNews. A spokesperson for the party's chief whip, Simon Hart, said the decision had been made following the former Tory deputy chairman's refusal to apologise for the remarks made on Friday. Following his suspension, Mr. Anderson said he fully accepted that Mr. Hart and the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak had no option but to suspend his party membership, adding that he would continue to support efforts to call out extremism. Look, let's just be honest about this. Lee Anderson getting suspended doesn't help the Tory party at all. A lot of them will agree with what he said in private, which is why they haven't come out and condemned his statements. Also, a lot of Tory voters would agree with what he said. So him getting suspended only helps parties like Reform, who are stealing more and more Tory voters. What that woman said in the GBNews clip that prompted Lee to say what he said, that's how a lot of British people feel. They don't recognise the country they're in any longer. They're worried about the future of this country. We're all worried about the future of the country, but so many people have been conditioned to believe that they shouldn't air those frustrations because they'll get labelled whatever buzzword. And yeah, Lee could have worded what he said a lot better. Let's just be real about that one. But are we not seeing British culture, British people being undermined? You know, the concerns, the worries of the British people who want this country, not any other country, this country to become better, that is being ignored. British people, the more they see, the more they're becoming frustrated. And we do have an issue with extremism in this country. There's no denying that. And the police do act differently depending on the situation. Sadiq Khan, I don't know how this man still has a job. I really don't. For example, the crime under his watch has skyrocketed. Does he care about London? Because if he did, would he not be trying to lower the crime in London? Instead, he's more concerned about, I don't know, charging people for driving older cars and spending £6 million on renaming train lines. And if this is the other way around, nobody's getting suspended, instead applauded. So the Tory party, at the end of it, just look ridiculous, and it's clear to see they have only suspended Lee Anderson to please whoever, and when the election comes around and they lose and Labour wins, they will blame everybody else, even though leading up to the election they have continually dug their own graves. Doesn't make any sense to me. This is the state we're in right now, ladies and gentlemen. Leave your thoughts down below on this whole situation. What are your thoughts on it? If you have enjoyed, again, make sure to leave a like rating. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so you never miss a video, comment on this video, share this video. But until next time, it has been your boy JD. Have a great day, stay safe, and I'm out.